Hi, dragonflies. How is everybody today? Welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing part 4 of my favourite tarot cards, and this one is the Suit of Cups, which just so happens to be my favourite suit. I think that it would be really interesting to go back to the start of these videos and just see how much has changed. I think probably even since part 3, my knowledge has grown, my confidence in reading has grown, perhaps my taste in decks may have changed a little as well, and I've also added new decks to my collection. So I think the Dilly that did the first one of these videos is a slightly different Dilly to the one that's doing part 4. But we learn, we grow, and that's what this is all about, right? So here we go, the Suit of Cups. First up, we have the Ace of Cups, and I've chosen the Ace of Cups from the Lightseers Tarot by Chris Ann, which is a real favourite deck of mine. The Ace here is great because it doesn't have the RWS disembodied hand, which I'm never a fan of. I love that the person in this card is holding the cup themselves, almost as a gift to themselves. It doesn't have to come from someone else. And yes, it can mean new beginnings in terms of relationships, romantic or otherwise. But it can also mean something more within yourself that's awakening, some new feelings, emotions, or perhaps spirituality or intuition that is coming from within you. And I also love the fact that the person's hands are open, because to me this symbolizes your heart being open, you being open to new opportunities, new friendships, new connections, new love even, or even new spiritual learning or intuitive learning. And I think that that's really beautifully clear in the hand positioning. And then you have the cup being held to the heart space and the heart within the cup, and these wonderful rays of light radiating from the cup, and the little swirl of water there, and the little flow of emotion coming out from the cup. And I just think that's beautiful, and I think it encompasses so many things that the Ace of Cups is. And I love a card with that much layering. I love a card with so many little nuggets of inspiration and meaning in it, and that's why I love this particular card. So card number 2 is the Ace of Cups, and that comes from the Guardian of the Night Tarot by MJ Cullinane. I'm not much of an animal deck person, or at least I haven't been in the past, but I love this deck, and I really, really, really love this card. Oh, there's just so much in it to talk about, and I would be here all week if I talked about every element. But let's begin with the gentle giants, the elephants, these wonderful, emotionally intelligent creatures. They're in perfect harmony here. They're in a mirror image of each other while they fill each other's cups with their trunks. And that's such a lovely depiction of the idea of a connection or a relationship where you fill their soul just as much as they fill yours, this sort of dual fulfillment. Or it could be something that you're doing, I don't know, maybe work or a passion or hobby where you get from that thing as much as you give to it. And I love that. I think that's just such a beautiful image. And then just as an RWS, you have the chimera at the top, which sort of strengthening that connection. But also I kind of see a chimera as a little bit fire, a little bit passionate, so not just passion between two people, but passion for a project or your work, or something that you're doing. And then you have the lotus flower, which from my recollection I think is in all the cup cards. I can't remember. But you know, it's this wonderful thing. It's opening itself up. It's opening itself up to this connection, and it's opening itself up to that beautiful blood red moon in the center. That's a real feature in this deck. And oh yes, it's spine-tinglingly good, this card, and yeah, that's why I chose it. So I have gone to the Old Style Tarot by Alexander Ray for my choice for the Three of Cups. I love this card, because it just reminds me of Beltane, just this wonderful raucous celebration with a maypole, and everybody's just, you know, it's such an energetic kind of celebration, I think, Beltane, and you definitely get that from this card. And I like the fact it's not just your sort of three maidens, the traditional kind of depiction. I love that it's a bigger group, because I think that really sort of represents the community feel of this card a little bit more. I think it's, you know, and it gives that kind of feel of a party. It gives that feel of a celebration where more people come together. And I also like the maypole, because you've got this, you're going to work together. These people have to work together. They have to each do their part equally to create something really, really beautiful. Because if they don't, if someone doesn't do their bit, if they don't all pull together properly, they're all going to get tied up in ribbon, basically. So, you know, and it's difficult. It's a very tricky thing, the maypole. But, you know, by working together as this community, they make something genuinely stunning. And yeah, I think that's such a beautiful way to depict how I feel about the Three of Cups and the message I get from the Three of Cups. And yeah, I think it's a great little card. My choice for the Four of Cups might seem a strange one. This comes from the Lunar Soul Tarot by Darren Schill and Kay Medaglia. And it's a really simple little card, and I was quite surprised when I chose it, actually. But there's a lot in it for something that seems really quite simple. I mean, you look at the figure first, and, you know, I've been there. That kind of, you don't want to get out of your dressing gown, your hair's a mess, you're feeling really dejected and low, and, you know, but behind this figure is this little lineup of three beautifully intricate, ornate, sparkly, bejeweled cups. But, you know, they've turned their back on them. They have no interest in them. They don't appreciate them. And because of that, they're failing to see what is, you know, arguably a much plainer cup, but, you know, a cup that's much more meaningful. It's more meaningful than these sparkly trinkets that the other three cups are. They are much more, it's a much more, I guess, you know, it's a spiritual gift. It's, you know, it's a divine gift, if that's the way you view it. You know, it's arguably much more special and important and meaningful than the other three, but because of your mindset, you're just not seeing any of them. You're not seeing what, you know, that this wonderful gift that's being offered to you, that's going to mean more than all of those sort of, you know, shiny things next to you. And you're in this dark, bare room, and you're not seeing the wonderful light that's outside this window. And, you know, they're for such a simple little card, I think there's so much in it to appreciate. And yeah, that's my reason for choosing this one. So looking at the Five of Cups, there were so many I could have chosen. I mean, there have been for all the cards, but I kind of went with my heart on this one, and I've gone for the Five of Cups from the Heartwood Tarot. Now, this deck is pretty new to me. I haven't had it for very long at all, but when I went through all of my decks in research for this video, this card immediately stood out to me. It just embodies the real emotions and feelings and atmosphere of the Five of Cups for me. And it's the kind of the greyness and the heaviness and the feeling of torrential rain pouring down. And, you know, it when I look at that card, I sense the feelings of the Five of Cups. I mean, you've got the very obvious kind of simplistic sign of loss. You have the headstone there, but I don't know. I don't think that's why the animal, the rabbit, is there. I don't think they're there to mourn this, whoever the headstone belongs to. I think that their loss is something different, but they are surrounding themselves with this cloak of greyness. They are surrounding themselves in this atmosphere, in this place, this physical place of loss, and they're looking away and they cannot see those two perfectly beautiful, clean, clear, pure cups next to them, because they are so engrossed in this sort of negative place of grief and loss that they cannot see this, the good that's here, the positive things that are here. And I'm kind of a little bit waffly about this one, because I genuinely have felt a real emotional connection to this card, and that's why it won over all the other Five of Cups, I guess. Now I've gone for what I think is another deceptively simple card for the Six of Cups, actually, and this comes from the Modern Witch Tarot by Lisa Stirl. Now, this card, as I said, appears quite simplistic, but to me it's again really quite layered. Let's look at the background. I love the background. These little houses just have this kind of feel of somewhere you want to return to, a familiar place, an old childhood home, a simpler way of being, and that is a kind of, a sort of base level, I guess, meaning of this card for me. But then you add in the people in the foreground. Initially it looks like you've got an older relative gifting something to a younger relative, which represents this generosity, I think, that you have in the Six of Cups. But then let's look a bit deeper. Perhaps this is actually somebody gifting a cup to their younger self. Perhaps this is inner child work. Perhaps this is, going back and healing the child that you were. Or perhaps it's even, the nostalgia element. You are thinking back. Your emotions are going back to who you were as a child, and even little things like the little rock on the left hand side where the cup is standing. There's this kind of feeling of foundation here, your foundation, almost your roots. And yeah, again, it's so simple in its imagery, but it feels really kind of deep and layered for me, and I think that's really quite clever in this card. So, I know not everyone's going to agree with my choices for these cards, but I'm kind of fairly confident not many people would agree with this choice. But for the Seven of Cups, I have gone for a card from the Harmonious Tarot, specifically my little pocket version. Now, I guess kind of on first inspection, there's a very clear Rider-Waite-Smith link here, because you have the cups up in the air, and they're all filled with, the same or similar items as they are in the RWS. And that's great. That's your choices, your decision making, making better choices. But then you've got this intriguing little tableau going on in the foreground here of this younger woman looking in the mirror and seeing an older face, and that's intriguing to me. And I even looked at the card and I thought, well, which one's real? Is she actually just an older woman, but she's kidding herself that she's this young beautiful woman, or is she a young beautiful woman and she's looking in the mirror and suddenly seeing her future self? Is it a case of the choice you make will depend on whether you can look yourself in the mirror when you're older? Can you actually be comfortable and sit well with the choices that you make now? But maybe it's the fantasy side of this card, the illusion, the daydreaming, the wishful thinking, you know. Maybe this is an older woman, but she's kind of, you know, fantasizing that actually she's this young, beautiful, romantic figure. And, you know, that there is, again, and I know I keep talking about layers, but, you know, I love a layer. And I just think that there is so much going on in this card. I mean, I haven't even looked into what the plant is. What's the plant on the table? Does anybody know? The cloth, is the cloth covering something up? Is that your kind of, you know, losing touch with the reality, fantasy, hiding something, daydreaming, illusion-y kind of feel, you know? You know, the more I look at this, and it's a really tiny card, but the more I look at it, the more I'm finding, and that's a great tarot card to me. So I genuinely have this real paranoia doing this video that people are going to go, oh my god, why did you choose that card? That's so lame. But, you know, I've got to be true to myself, and I've picked the Eight of Cups from my beloved Fantasy Night Theatre deck, which is a real favourite of mine. And my reasoning is, again, layers. Now, I am painfully aware that I sound like Donkey from Shrek because I talk about layers a lot, but I guess it's just how I see it. But there's a lot in this card. Yes, you have the main kind of theme of abandoning something or walking away from something, letting go of something, searching for change or transition, leaving behind what no longer serves you. And you've got that in the way that she's moving away from the cups, but you've also got it, I think, in the trees. So, you know, you have the darker trees in the front, and they gradually get lighter and lighter and lighter the further she goes. And it's like, you know, I'm leaving behind the darkness and I'm heading towards something lighter and brighter. But then you've got these really subtle little things, like she's got a flower in her hand, one of the flowers from the foreground, one presumes. And that's a kind of feeling of, well, I'm not leaving everything behind. There are some things I need to take with me, or some things I want to take with me, things that will be useful to me, things that do serve me. I'll leave behind the rest of it that doesn't, but I'm going to take this because this will help me. Maybe it's a lesson learned. And that kind of brings me to the kind of boundaries. I mean, that there's this feeling of boundaries in the Eight of Cups. You know, you're drawing a line in the sand. You're saying, look, I am not prepared to deal with that anymore. I need to leave that behind and move forward. And to me, and this may just be me, like the lines on her skirt, to me, kind of represent that. These lines in the sand. I'm drawing these lines, these boundaries that you know, I'm going to take forward with me. I'm not going to let people overstep those anymore. I'm not going to let life overstep those anymore. I'm going to take these boundaries that I've learned are useful to me, and I'm going to take those with me. And, you know, maybe it's just me, but I get excited when I see all of these things in a card, and I see it in this card, and I know it's not for everybody. I get that, but I just, you can probably hear it in my voice. I'm getting carried away just talking about this one card again. But yeah, it's a great card to me, and I can't help that. So it won't surprise you to learn that I was also spoiled for choice with the Nine of Cups. There are so many good ones. But I had to go back to another deck that I've used in these videos before, the Marchetti Tarot. And this utterly adorable, beautiful little card. It just embodies the Nine of Cups for me. Yes, you have this feeling of contentment. Everything you've wanted, you've now got. Your wishes have come true. You've got spiritual and emotional fulfillment here. And you've got time to just kind of, you know, sit back and really sort of indulge yourself in sort of what you've achieved, what you have. And what I love about this card is, yes, this little guy, oh bless his heart, looks about as content as it's possible to look. And I totally get that, because when our little dog Bonnie is, you know, she's curled up in a little ball as she kind of wraps herself round in a little circle, like a little donut, and she's sound asleep on our lap. She is the picture of contentment. But the key thing is that what has made this little guy so contented is he's got this lovely little happy home behind him where people love him. He's fully fed because he's got his empty little food bowl, so he's got a full belly, and he's got a ball. He's got his little red ball, and that's all he needs to, really entertain him. And that's all this little man needs to feel that level of contentment. He doesn't need tons of material things. He doesn't need heaps and heaps of praise, or he's just content with these really simple basic things. And I think that's just beautiful, and I think that's a message for all of us in this card. This is A, the cutest 9 of Cups, but B, just, I think, the one with the most beautiful message. So for every single Cups card, I've had about 12 cards on the shortlist, and I've had to whittle it down to 1 for each. And the 10 of Cups was no exception. But I've gone for one from the Pagan Tarot. And I've gone for this because I like that this has a more open interpretation than the sort of standard RWS emotional fulfillment means husband, wife, and a couple of kids. Because it's not for everybody. For many people, yes, it is, but it's not. That's not what is going to bring emotional fulfillment for everybody. Now, the guidebook, from my recollection, talks about this group of people being a witch and her partner, priest and high priestess, friends and family. The friends, I think, are dressed in colours of the elements, and there's a new baby. That's something that they're celebrating, perhaps. And to add to that overwhelming feeling of joy and contentment, there's a kitten and a puppy. What more could you want, right? Well, maybe for some people that isn't their idea of fulfillment, and that isn't going to make them feel emotionally complete. And I think that before I read the guidebook, that's not how I saw this little group. I didn't necessarily see them as family and friends. Perhaps I saw them as, like people coming together for the solstice at Stonehenge, and they'll bring their baby and lay it on a blanket, and they'll sit on the blanket too, perhaps. But they don't all know each other, but they come together in this really special moment. And I've never done this. I've never done it, and I'd love to go to Stonehenge for solstice. And I really do think that I would feel such a sense of emotional fulfillment and joy in doing it. So I think that this group of people, despite what the guidebook says, can be interpreted in a lot of different ways, and interpreted in ways that make sense for people that aren't necessarily the 2.4 children kind of archetype, I guess. And it's just... it's open, and that's what I really like about this card. Okay, so I struggled with the court cards, I'm not going to lie, but I eventually went for a Page of Cups from Find Your Magic Tarot, which surprised me because it's not a deck that I'm hugely in love with. But I think my reason for choosing this is because I kind of see the Page of Cups. When I see the Page of Cups, I immediately think inner child, really. I think, you've got this naive dreamer, this innocence that the world hasn't dampened yet. This probably unrealistic and naive view of the world, but, you've got no other reason to think otherwise, because, everything in your world is rosy and lovely, and it's a lovely place to be in. And there she is. She's got nothing else to do with her day, this little witch, but blow bubbles and, send all her little dreams and wishes and plans off in those little bubbles to the sky. Perhaps those wishes will come true. And it's just, this really lovely, innocent view of the world, which I think is kind of where the Page of Cups sits for me. And it's, why not? We're all so cynical, and life makes us cynical, and maybe we could all afford to be a bit more Page of Cups and allow ourselves to dream, and allow ourselves to play with ideas a little bit, allow ourselves to kind of to just be kinder to our inner child, really, I guess. Express our emotions, our creative side. And yeah, I think that's why I've chosen this card, because it really just it's that inner child, that innocence that the Page of Cups kind of embodies for me. And I've kind of repeated myself here, but yeah, I hope I've explained that properly, but that's why I made this choice. So I've really struggled to find a Knight of Cups that really hits the nail on the head for me. And I think that's because the traditional depiction of the sort of more static horse and the knight holding his cup, and I just think I don't vibe with it, honestly. And I don't know how easily I'm going to be able to explain my choice, but I've chosen the knight from Tarot of the Hidden Realm. And initially, it was honestly because I went, oh, he really reminds me of Michael Praed in Robin of Sherwood. If you have a Dragonfly Dilly Bingo card, please tick mentions Robin of Sherwood, because for those of you that don't know, big fan. But yeah, it works though, right? He's the romantic lead. He's brave and he's charming, and he's a great sort of mediator. He's got diplomacy skills, but he's also sensitive. With Marion, he's really sensitive, and he's very much a sort of how I view the Knight of Cups, actually. But then also looking at his expression. Now, I love a deck where I can read facial expressions and body language, and the way he stares quite intensely, but he's sat in a really relaxed way. He's staring quite intensively at this cup, but he's still relaxed, and it's kind of like, yeah, I'm in touch with that cup, I'm in touch with my emotions, but I'm cool with it, and I'm at ease with them as well. And do I listen to my heart? Yeah, I listen to my heart, but it's not always a bad thing, is it? That sometimes is a really good thing. And I think that's what I can see in his face. And I have absolutely no idea if I've explained that properly. It's just a feeling I get from this particular night, I guess, that just gives me the feeling that I think the Knight of Cups should. But that's just me, and I know I haven't explained it very well, but maybe you'll understand what I'm saying. Who knows? So choosing a Queen of Cups was an awful lot easier, I have to say. And I went back to an old favourite that I've used in probably all of these videos, and that's the Fifth Spirit Tarot. I have the indie edition. And I love this Queen of Cups. This is everything the Queen of Cups is about for me. This is a person who, again, we're talking about facial expression to begin with. This is a person who has a face that is welcoming you to come and sit in this chair. They are compassionate. You can already see that they have warmth and kindness, and that they want to help, and they want to heal. And they have all the accoutrements of a spiritual healer. We have pendulums and crystals and tarot cards, and I just love that they are depicting the Queen of Cups in such a way, because I think if I was going to imagine anybody as the Queen of Cups, it would probably be somebody that is this person. I don't know how else to say it. I think I'm getting really tired, Dragonflies. I'm not going to lie. It's been a really long weekend. But yeah, I'm kind of losing my train of thought now. But yeah, I think this is the Queen of Cups for me. Somebody healing. They will counsel you, they will support you, they will give you what you need emotionally, but they'll do that with kindness and warmth, and they are there looking after your emotional health, and helping you to look after your own emotional health. And yeah, I really, really love this card. I don't know what else to say about it. I'm losing my words because I'm exhausted, but yeah, I think it's a great card. So we come to the King of Cups, and I really had to go with a deck that I've used in all these videos, in so many videos, and that's the Earthwoman Tarot, because it's just so good. Honestly, every card could be a favourite card. And this king, this is Poseidon. This is a guy that isn't just in touch with his emotions, he's in command of them. But he's balanced. He knows how to balance his emotions with sensible, rational thinking, His stance is kind of really solid and even and balanced, showing how in control he is. And, he's not afraid of his emotions. He stood there in the sort of turbulent waters, but he knows how to balance them with the calmer waters behind him. And he just seems just that little bit more in control and strong than the normal King of Cups. That, maybe it's just me. He kind of seems a little bit weedy. And I don't think he needs to be. This guy knows when it's okay to be emotional, and he knows it is okay to be emotional. And he stands in that, he stands in those turbulent waters. He's not afraid of them. But behind all that is this calmness, is this balance. And you've still got the little nods to the Rider-Waite. You've got the dolphin, and the which is the kind of softer creative side, the spirit, and then you've got the sort of material world. You've got your ship on the other side, so you've got your balance there as well. But I just think it's just the presence of this King of Cups that kind of shows you, showing emotion isn't weak. Showing emotion can make you strong. It makes you a strong person. And if you know how to balance that out with calm, rational reasoning, then, you are strong. And yeah, I just love this guy. I love this King of Cups. And so there we are, Dragonflies. Those are my favourite cards or some of my favourite cards, I should say, in the Suit of Cups, because there are many more that could have been included. I have fought the tiredness from a very heavy work weekend, and the imposter goblins that have been sat on my shoulders saying, "Oh, you're getting this all wrong." And yeah, here we are. I have produced a video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was interesting to you. I hope it wasn't too waffly and out of control. But there we have it. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for continually supporting, and you're all awesome. Take care, Dragonflies, and I will hopefully see you all again soon.